Did you ever say to yourself, I am not going there? And it usually doesn't mean a physical place, it means a thought path. So, yeah, me too. Sometimes it's really hard to corral your brain. So, last night was one of those nights. Didn't get to sleep till 2 in the morning. Anyway, so this morning, good morning. This is Aunt Beth. Welcome to my lamppost. So this morning, we're talking about Psalm 66. And it made me think about Route 66 and the paths that we choose in life. So, the year I was so unexpectedly retired, my college roommate and I drove half of Route 66 just to explore and see if I wanted to move to Texas. So it was a long trip. It was like 3 weeks. We had a lot of fun. There were places of refuge, places that were clearly tourist stops, places that were just ridiculous monuments, like the blue whale and the tall ketchup bottle and whatever, places that were fun, like huge rocking chair and huge mailbox that you could walk through. But it started thinking me about my life. Well, when I was going through this Psalm 66, about the paths that we choose. When I was a kid, I used to think about roads as rivers, and as long as you were on a path, you could go pretty much anywhere, because they all connected. And some places I don't want to go. Some places are going backwards. Already been there. But it was also, I think, an attitude of your life. It was a really fun 3 weeks because of the adventure of exploring and trying on areas. Does this fit? Do I like the feel of this? Whatever we would go to do. I had a theory. So we would go to any town that sort of met my criteria. We'd go to a yarn shop, a fabric store, a bookstore, and a tea shop, coffee shop. And, as far as a way to check out the community. And where are the people gathering in my life? It made me think about my life and the path of my life. And what am I building just ridiculous monuments to? What are places of refuge? What are places that I don't want to go? But what's my path forward? We had a choice on that trip. Remember the old AAA triptychs? They were maps, and they were always the long way. So north was always changing, but they were always the long way. Anyway, shows you how old I am. But, we always had a couple paths to choose, and sometimes there was only one road out of there. So, to play off the Route 66 comment, David, for most of this psalm, he's actually talking to the people. And he's talking about, first of all, make his name glorious. I looked it up. It's basically, make is to set up and put before one's mind. And glorious is weight, honor, and significance. So I think what he's saying is to acknowledge who and what God actually is in my life is to make a place for him in my life. Some people, I found out just last night, somebody, a YouTuber I watched, has been married for like a year and a half. Why aren't they talking about that? Now I get it. YouTube, okay. privacy and all that kind of stuff. But that's not establishing somebody else's presence in their life, you know. And I started thinking, am I establishing God's presence in my life for myself, but also for other people? Then this is interesting. He talks about, do not let the rebellious exalt themselves. He's talking to people as far as, what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on God and his ability? Or are you focusing on the rebellious, the wicked? So there was one other thought. Let me just go through my notes real quick. I love his confidence. Certainly God has heard me. The one thing that we have is free will that God has given us. What am I doing with it? What path am I choosing? Where am I going? What am I speaking out and giving place to my life with my words and with my attention? I used to have a boss that said, ignore irrelevant behavior. Where am I going to camp out? What's refuge? What is just tchotchke, hokey, So it's fun, but you're not serious about it, Do you really have the time for that? So I guess the point of Route 66 and Psalm 66 is choose your road. Choose your path. So I hope this encourages you. Have a fabulous day. All God's best.